It is official. President Trump declares North Korea a state sponsor of terrorism.
And this just continues to tighten the pressure on the Kim regime.
We lost a Border Patrol officer, and another one was brutally beaten.
I think Americans have had enough. They elected a president to secure the border.
Bombshell reports the FBI informant that at the center of this case gathered years and years of evidence.
There's over 5,000 documents, which include emails, briefs of Russia's intentions to acquire uranium-1.
Why won't you say thank you to the president?
It doesn't make... Well, if somebody does something for you, then you say thank you.
Somebody did something for you.
I'm embarrassed for that father that he didn't have the decency to say, thank you, Mr. President.
A federal judge in California has permanently blocked President Trump's executive order defunding sanctuary cities.
It is a Tuesday that kind of feels like a Wednesday because tomorrow's going to be Wednesday and it's going to feel like Friday because everybody's off on Thursday. It's the shortest work week day of the entire calendar.
It's very exciting, and I'm thrilled because we have a cornucopia here. I've been dying to use that word for probably the last few years.
See, there,
what makes it a cornucopia?
Well, that's what that's called.
The copia part.
Oh,
the copia part? What's the copia part?
It's corn and copia. Cornucopia to mean cornucopia. Hey, meanwhile, so it's going to be a big show. Nothing slow down. If you had a chance to flip on the news yesterday, you know it's almost impossible to write down the news as fast as it's coming out and reiterate the news. I watched Shannon Bream's show last night.
You were up late.
Yeah, and I watched the repeat, listened to the repeat on the way in. A lot of times her show
change?
a lot of times her show is blowing up different things and analyzing different things that happen during the day. I heard 5 new stories I didn't even know about that were on at 11 o'clock that couldn't even fit into Laura's show.
Unbelievable. There is so much going on. And on this very busy Wednesday, let's talk about this. We know that one of the reasons President Trump was elected president was his promise to build a wall on our southern border, because a lot of people feel we simply are not safe. Well, now, as it turns out, the very latest on those 2 Border Patrol agents who were, it sounds like they were ambushed on Saturday into Sunday. It sounds like after they were notified by their Border Patrol agents handling them in the Big Bend sector of Texas, apparently they were told there's some activity over there with illegals. Go and check it out. They found some footprints and they started following them, and then apparently they were ambushed.
Let me tell you about this individual who ultimately gave his life for our country. His dad said, I would tell him, son, that job is too dangerous. But he would say, Dad, it's the job I like. I want to defend my country from terrorists. I want to prevent terrorists and drugs from coming into the country. He loved his job, and his dad said that he died serving our country. He had an 11-year-old son. He was engaged to be married. He was assigned to the Big Bend sector and was a Border Patrol for 4 years.
And here's the thing.
Border Patrol agent.
This was an ambush, as Steve mentioned. It looks like we don't know the name of the other guy, the other Border Patrol agent struggling for his life right now.
Release.
We do know that Rogelio Martinez, which Angela says he goes by Roger. We do know he was beaten with rocks. Here's the president. He has more details than we have, but he is angered, horrified, and saddened. You heard we lost a Border Patrol officer just yesterday, and another one was brutally beaten and badly hurt. Looks like he'll make it, but very, very badly hurt. And we talk about the wall. We're going to have the wall. It's part of what we're doing. We need it. That's rough territory. That's where the drugs are coming in. And they say that's the area that that the landscape makes it, oh, you don't really want to build a wall that area. Only 1%, yeah, Mary Mountainous, only 1% of those people crossing there actually get through. Only 1% of all the crossings actually come through there. Man, someone tell these guys they can't get through because of natural boundaries.
It's the Van Horn, Texas area. It is known for drug activity, according to some articles that I was reading. And they were found in a ravine in like a 14-foot culvert.
Right.
Both of these individuals, the guy who survived says he doesn't remember anything. And they both had extremely traumatic head injuries.
Blunt force trauma. It is presumed that somebody beat him in the head with rocks. Robert Heyer is Brian Terry's cousin. Remember, he was a Border Patrol agent who was killed. He made it very clear why the message of the wall is so important. Watch this.
You know, it's a violent environment, very kinetic, just as we saw with Brian Terry. Those armed rip crews were professional criminals that came and went back across the border time and time again to do one thing, and that was create violence on the American side of the border. It's a very, very violent environment on the border, and I think Americans have had enough. They elected a president to secure the border.
And now they're trying to figure out who did this. The state of Texas has offered a $20,000 reward.
All right, meanwhile, 6 minutes after the top of the hour, we've been telling about Uranium One, and this has been the story. Democrats come out and say this is no big deal. It's a distraction because of the Mueller investigation. That's what the Trump people are putting out. Republicans say this has been a big deal for 2 years. You've just been ignoring it. Well, so far, that's been the push and pull. A Canadian company who licensed the Russians to be able to dig for uranium in our country had to be approved by a bunch of people, including Attorney General Eric Holder. Now it turns out there's more to this story that leads to one to believe that the Russians had a master plan, and that is get as much uranium out of this country as possible.
Yeah, the whole idea was for the Russians to corner the market of American uranium to make us reliant on the Russians. And John Solomon and Sarah Carter, both great investigative reporters, have got information about this confidential FBI informant. His name is William Campbell. He saved thousands of memos. And so now what they're able to do is put the story together. Here's Sarah last night on the channel.
There's over 5,000 documents, which include emails, briefs, other documentation, memorandums that the informant had turned over to the FBI and Justice Department. And within these documents, it's very evident of Russia's intentions to enter the American market, energy market, and their intentions to acquire Uranium One.
Got to hear from this informant. I guess he hasn't been feeling well, but he's going to be he's going to decide his information, where this story goes.
He's got a lot of it, and some of the things that have been revealed in their reportage over the last 24 hours. The Washington Post got it wrong. Uranium One actually has exported uranium from this country. Also, the FBI had evidence of corruption before the Obama administration approved the sale. And then when the FBI informant heard about that, he said, wait a minute, I've got the goods on this. There was a lot of bribery involved. How could the government let that go through? And he was told by his FBI handler, politics.
That Russia would do anything to corner the American market on uranium.
All right, and now let's go from politics to sports and keep it in politics. The LeVar Ball has been traumatizing the sports world really since his sons emerged as prominent basketball players. Now, first-round draft pick of the Los Angeles Lakers. So now his other sons are at UCLA, and one of which was caught shoplifting with two others, and detained in China. LeVar Ball is a clown, and he is absolutely somebody that, he seems to have done a great job with his sons, but every time he hops in front of the microphone, I don't understand if he's just really insane or just pretending to be insane to get more attention on himself. Yesterday, we saw LeVar Ball bring his act to another news network when asked why he went after the president and would not thank the president for helping his son avoid years in prison. Listen.
How do you know it? How do you know it wasn't involved before I even knew that? I mean, he didn't even know they was over there and like that. Okay, what was the reason for him going over there in the first place? What I'm trying to say is,
what are you trying to say?
It wasn't like he was in the U.S. and said, okay, there's 3 kids in China, I need to go over there and get them.
Okay.
That wasn't a thought process.
All right,
okay.
right.
What we're talking about right now is a lot of stuff about my son just because his last name is Ball. We're not even talking about the other two kids. I don't have no doubts about what he did. I got doubts of what he didn't do. How's that? I would say thank you if he would have put him on his plane and took him home. Then I would have said, thank you, Mr. Trump, for taking my boys out of China and bringing them back to the U.S. There's a lot of room on that plane. I would have said thank you kindly for that.
So he would have thanked the President of the United States had the President said, hey, come on, guys who I've just sprung, hop on Air Force One and I'll take you home. Apparently, during the dinner where the President was with the President of China, the President of China had not heard about it. And the President then said, explained the story about how these guys each stole a $2,000 pair of Louis Vuitton sunglasses. And then the President of China called his people over, found out about the story, and the President said, the President of the United States said it would mean a lot to the people of the United States if you let them go. And he did.
It sends a bad message because think about if this were you. My dad would have gone on national television and said, thank you to the President, first of all, for allowing my daughter to come home. I want to thank anyone that allowed that to happen so she didn't have to stay over there and do hard labor or whatever. Yeah. God knows what would happen to those individuals, to those boys. I think that dad needs to be grateful and thankful for anyone that helped him. He did thank the President of China, didn't thank our president, even though his own son came out and said that. And you know what my dad always said? He said, if you ever get caught in jail, don't call me. My dad always, it was our fault. He said, you have to take responsibility for your actions. Yeah. The dad should say, my son. By the way, their tennis shoes cost how much? $500?
$700.
$700 a piece. Why is he stealing Louis Vuitton? The kid was remorseful. The president was nice and said, I helped him out. I'm glad they're here. And I hope he wrote, remember that text message or that Twitter tweet he wrote, I hope they have a great life. Now, the president should not have said, I should have just kept him in jail to penalize the dad, because the boys were grateful.
Here's the thing. The president would be very smart not to engage LeVar Ball. It is a circuitous world that you just go down a sewer. But Wendell Brown is an example. He is from Ball State, 30 years old. He got in a bar fight in China. He has been in jail for 13 months. He can't even get a day in court. His parents say, Mr. President, if you could help my son, I will thank you for the rest of my life every single day. That's what happens in China. With a bar fight, he can't get a day in court. That's what could have happened to these three guys.
We were studying for the show, and we're comparing what that dad said compared to what the dad who lost his son on the border. He said, my son made the ultimate sacrifice. Those are I loved that dad because he said my son died for this country. He did what he loved, and he's grateful.
Yeah, it is quite a feud that the Ball family currently has with the President of the United States. And we're going to keep you posted. What do you think about it? Email us, friends@foxnews.com, on this Tuesday of Thanksgiving week. Meanwhile, coming up, as the manhunt continues for a possible serial killer, intensifies down in Tampa, Florida, we're going to ride along with the police. We're there live, coming up next.
And Hillary Clinton really wants to be president, even if she's got to go to another planet.
If I had been president, or on Earth 2 where I am, I would have an independent commission.
Why is she still here? Fox News alert, police in Tampa increasing efforts to find the killer they believe responsible for a string of murders that dates back to last month.
Just last night, Fox News contributor Ted Williams rode with the Tampa police in the neighborhood where those victims have been found dead.
And right now, let's go live down to Tampa. Former homicide detective and Fox News contributor Ted Williams. Ted, good morning to you. Tell us about the ride-along.
Good morning. Yeah, hi. I'm now at the scene of where one of the murdered victims was found. Last night, I got a chance to do a ride-along with a Sergeant Boderman of the Tampa Bay Police Department. Let's take a look. You've got this incident that's going on here where 4 individuals have been found dead in your city. How does that affect you as a sergeant in doing your work here?
It puts a lot of added stress on not only the squad, but the department and city as a whole. We've never had anything like this before in the city of Tampa in my 25 years here, where we've had a serial killer on the loose.
One thing that is eerie about these streets as I look ahead and around us
in bed, asleep, and that's it. This is not normal for 8 o'clock at night to have everybody inside. I mean, we haven't even seen that many cars driving down the street. Right now, everybody's on alert, and they're staying indoors.
Ted, tell us a little bit about Ted, tell us a little bit about the reaction there in the neighborhood.
Yeah, well, the people are paralyzed in the neighborhood. There's a great deal of fear in the neighborhood, of course, but there's a great deal of unity where they want this killer or killers to be brought to justice.
All right. Ted Williams live in that neighborhood in Tampa.
Thank you, Ted.
It's puzzling. So random.
It really is.
All right. Meanwhile, straight ahead on this telecast, no cops allowed. Students at one university here in New York trying to ban the police. We're not kidding. The president
just pull off the greatest photo bomb, watch this, of all time.
And this is breaking right now. After 3 days on the run, an accused cop killer is in custody. Moments ago, police announcing they caught Ramel Sal Holt. Police say Holt shot and killed 25-year-old officer Brian Shaw near Pittsburgh after an attempted traffic stop over the weekend. 7 other people, including Holt's mother, are under arrest. Officer Shaw will be laid to rest tomorrow morning. Also breaking right now, a new bombshell of alleged sexual harassment. BuzzFeed reports Democratic Congressman John Conyers paid a former female employee thousands of dollars, settling a sexual misconduct lawsuit back in 2015. The woman allegedly fired for turning down his advances. This as CBS and PBS suspend Charlie Rose over sexual harassment allegations. The Washington Post citing 8 female employees accusing the anchor of unwanted sexual advances, walking around them while naked, lewd phone calls, and groping. In a statement to the Post, Rose apologized, saying in part, quote, he behaved insensitively at times. Steve?
Jillian, thank you. A New York City college sparking outrage after making it known that they don't want police using their campus bathrooms, all in an effort to keep the cops out of sight from the students. This, as a petition, is in the works by Brooklyn College students to ban the police from the campus altogether. Some students saying to the New York Post, quote, we do not want the New York City Police Department on campus in any respect, even if it's just to take breaks and use the bathroom. Students don't feel comfortable around cops. It makes safe spaces feel not so safe. Your first instinct is to be scared. Here to weigh in on this unusual story is the president of the New York City Police Department Sergeants Benevolent Association, Ed Mullins. Ed, good morning.
Good morning.
So the first inclination of some of these students when they see a police officer is to be scared.
But that's only on campus. It's not in their travels to and from school. It's not in the neighborhoods to which they live, and it's not when they call 911. So there's clearly a little bit of an agenda going on.
But apparently, according to the association, Ed Mullins. Ed, good morning.
Good morning.
So the first inclination of some of these students when they see a police officer is to be scared.
But that's only on campus. It's not in their travels to and from school. It's not in the neighborhoods to which they live, and it's not when they call 911. So there's clearly a little bit of an agenda going on.
But apparently, according to these articles that have been written so far, when they see a police officer, some of these students at Brooklyn College, they see the police officer, and rather than somebody there to protect them, it triggers something bad inside where they're afraid.
I personally don't believe that. I just think that what we have is students looking to make a name for themselves, so to speak, to create an issue. Ultimately, I blame the administration of Brooklyn College. There's a question of right and wrong here. I think it's pretty clear across the country that the police are not the enemy. They're basically the good guy. And what's occurring now is just total lunacy, where the lunatics are running the asylum all over again.
There was one police officer who was quoted in the New York Post article said, quote, that protester culture is warping their effing minds.
Well, I think what we're seeing is over the past 8 years that we have a culture of protest. We have an anti-police sentiment that's going across the country. We have police officers that are being assassinated. And this all stems from weak leadership, weak politicians that help foster this environment. Every little thing that occurs now is about political correctness. And somewhere along the line, you have to push back and say, enough. This is how we live in this country. Without law enforcement and law and order, we have total chaos. And ultimately, without the police, you wouldn't even be able to go to school.
It's interesting. Apparently, the student body president for Brooklyn College said that one of the reasons she did not like the police was the fact that apparently there was an undercover New York City Police Department counterterrorism investigation. And they wound up arresting 2 women who were trying to pull off an ISIS-inspired plot to blow up propane tanks in New York City.
That statement alone should discredit this whole issue and the fact that we have an individual that feels uncomfortable over that incident, which basically tells me you'd rather sit with people involved in terrorism in your classroom than to see police officers walking about your campus and protecting and keeping a safe campus. We see active shooters, we see acts of terrorism all over the country. And who's responding to it? Our police officers. And those things are happening on schools.
Absolutely. You told one of our producers that maybe these students who don't want the cops on campus should take a year abroad. Go abroad, study abroad instead of here in Brooklyn.
I think they should, to be quite honest with you, is if you go to some foreign countries where police officers hold the title of police officers, they certainly don't uphold law and order. And in many ways, there are countries where police officers,